look at the flyer, but the key to thriving in the 25th age is to understand the energetic shifts. And we'll get into talking about how energy is shifting now. There are some very interesting things that are happening that NASA is letting leak out piece by piece, but I had a tremendous opportunity to work with the scientists out of NASA. And one of the things that was coming forward was from him was confirming information that I was receiving, and just sort of tapping on the door from time to time to sort of validate the direction that they're going with the information. So we're going to talk about these energetic shifts. And then it says, and effects of depolarization on our psyche. Now, one of the things that's happening in terms of shifting energy right now on the planet, in fact in the universe, is a depolarization of energy. That means that when we look at energy, the way we understand energy in our environment is that energy has a positive and a negative aspect to it. And so no matter how big, in science and in school, they always have these experiments, a little magnet and a great big magnet, and no matter how much you slice it, there's always a positive or a negative side of that energy. Now, the grandmothers always refer to positive and negative aspects of energy as masculine and feminine. All right? That has nothing to do with male and female, but it's important to understand that when I use that language, this is basically what I'm talking about. And the energetic shifts that I'm talking about come about as energy depolarizes. In other words, the ends are moving more towards the middle, making it more and more difficult for us in our own personal understanding of the working of the universe, because things no longer fit into precise ways that we've explained them for hundreds of years. So if this is happening to the planet, and the way we witness this is from, let's take from a planetary standpoint, and I know I'm jumping right into it, but that's the way it happens. So if you need me to stop and shift for a minute, shift a little bit, stop me. Otherwise, I'm just going with the information as it's flowing. I hadn't anticipated it would come this quickly. How we see this in the universe is, number one, what is difficult for scientists, and NASA is spending a tremendous amount of money right now looking at what? The sun. And what is it that they're looking at on the sun? The effect of solar winds or solar flares. They don't understand precisely what is happening, what is creating this phenomenon where we get these tremendous flares that just shoot out from the sun. They know that sooner or later these flares are going to have an impact on our environment here on this planet. In fact, it already is in terms of weather patterns and so forth. So this is one way we're seeing this depolarization affecting the universe, because it's destabilizing. The impact of it is destabilizing. The other thing that's interesting is there's a pulsation in the universe. The universe has a rhythm. We have a heartbeat. The earth has a heartbeat. This is measurable. It's not something I'm making up. The universe has its rhythm, has its pulsation, its heartbeat. It's changing. Okay? The earth's pulsation is changing. Another impact of this depolarization. Now, when we look at it on a human level, we begin to look at one of the things that's been predicted over the next 20 years is that the greatest increase in medical problems that we can anticipate is what? Where are we likely to see the greatest amount of money spent in the medical field? DNA. Well, DNA research. Now, a lot is going on in DNA research. How is it affecting people? Think about it. If we're used to working, what balances us is the polarized concept of energy, positive and negative. It keeps us stable. And all of a sudden, that's shifting like this. And there's nothing out here to balance us. Where does that manifest in our bodies? Mentally. One of the greatest increase in disease anticipated over the next 20 years in this country is mental illness. All right? This is how. So what I tried to do is show you just on 3 very brief sweeps what I'm talking about when I talk about the destabilization of energy or depolarization of energy. So when we talk about its effect on our psyche, our emotions, and universal understanding, it can be frightening, because where will emotional issues tend to manifest? On very personal levels, in our relationship with ourselves, in our relationship with our families, with our communities, and we can go on out from there. Our nations, the government, the world. So what do we say? Okay, so this is going to be a depressing next 20 years. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen? No. What we can anticipate is that yes, this is happening, but what opportunity is that creating for us? Energetically, what is it really doing to us? Now, let's see. Okay.
Is altering our DNA structure?
Absolutely. Let's take the DNA piece because I can tell that's really up front on your mind, and it really gives me an entree into an aspect of the discussion. But before I do that, let's go here, and then we're going to end up there. There is a 7-point alignment in space. And this 7-point alignment is like 7 holes in the universe. And aligned within these 7 holes are star systems beyond which any we have ever seen. Now, of course, the most obvious ones, we hear about are Sirius and the Pleiades and all that. But beyond that, and the majority of the light and energy that's coming through, are systems that we haven't even seen. Imagine all of this energy lined up, and all of a sudden, some phenomena in space that may have only lasted faster than what I can snap my finger has caused all this alignment of energy to come in and all of a sudden being channeled into the earth. That is what has ushered in the new age. All right? Now, when I talk about the new age, we're at the end of the 24th age. In fact, we have just transitioned from that. The 24th age was the age of perfection of form. Right? Perfection of form. Now, each age lasts 312,000 years. We're coming to the end of a 312. We have come to the end of a 312,000 year age. Within that are seasons. And here you see it divided. Imagine this whole circle here being an age. It is also the earth. It is also us as individuals. Now, each season is 26,000 years. All right? Where we are is just about here, bringing out the end of the season, of the age. Each season, as we think of this as a clock, because it also is a timekeeper, each season, being 26,000 years, also has an energy that is a prevailing energy and an energy that is a shadow energy. So in other words, the first age or season of this age was masculine. It had a feminine shadow energy. And it was this play of energy that keeps each season balanced. It just means that every season has an energy that is necessary for movement. The first season of this age was one where it was important for the masculine energy, which is a doer energy, for that energy to lead. But what kept it anchored in the universal knowing or universal oneness, a greater understanding of things than what we may be evident to us visually, was the feminine energy, which was the shadow energy, a receiving energy. So the doing was able to do, but at the same time, it was in receivership. So it was doing with that with which it was receiving. And then as we go from the first to the second, we move to where it shifts. The feminine energy becomes the dominant energy, the masculine energy becomes the shadow energy. Again, what was important to that season was to be in receivership first, as the strongest energy, but the masculine had just enough doing to keep us moving forward. But we weren't stepping out, we were being in a position to listen, to receive, to follow the knowing that comes from within. Now, as we've gone around the dial, so to speak, here we find ourselves, let's step back to the 11th season, which was a masculine season with the feminine shadow. As we've moved into the 12th season now, what has happened is the masculine coming from the 11th into the 12th did not relinquish its reign, so to speak. In other words, we went into a season out of balance because all of a sudden, here we come over the last 26 years into a season with a masculine prevailing energy and a masculine shadow energy. And this is what the grandmothers call sun consciousness, S-O-N, without sun consciousness, S-U-N. Now, there was a planetary configuration with the strongest dominant planet at this time being Mars that led or ushered in the shift. Now, if you think about it, over the last 26,000 years of our history, especially that aspect of it, or that part of it that's most closest to us, which is written history, which is only what, at the most 2,000 to 3,000 years. The rest is conjecture back to some places say that, 10,000 years maybe. But most of the history, the written history that we look at, we tend to accept it within the last 2,000 to 3,000 years. What we have seen in this progression of 26,000 years is a deterioration of what aspect of our humanity? The soul connecting string, that universal oneness. Now, it doesn't mean that people don't go to church. It doesn't mean people don't have other ways of worship. It doesn't mean that there are pockets of people trying to connect. I'm not denying any of that. But what I'm saying, in the energy that prevails, there is an energy which seems to be lacking in consciousness, or as the grandmothers say, the sun consciousness, because the sun in the universe is the light. The sun, the star, is the light. The light reveals that which we're ready to perceive in consciousness. Remember that, because that's important. The light reveals only that which we're ready to perceive in consciousness. So in other words, the light points the way to the dark, where all the magic occurs. And we'll go back to that. I kind of got off on a sidetrack, but we'll go back to that. So as we went into this last season of the age, we went into a season out of balance. Things are incremental. So it means it got worse as we went along. Now all of a sudden, here we are today, in all prophecy. I don't care where you look. Indigenous people around this planet are very scared. And I mean scared about the age that we're in.
When you say indigenous people, do you mean Indians or the...
Any indigenous people, Africans, Native Americans, Mayans, Aboriginals, you name it. All prophecy makes the ancient ones with knowledge and with wisdom who carried that over time very much afraid. Now, let's look at this, because this is heading back to the DNA, so just stay with me here. Here we have this happening. Now, prior to this configuration, we had a planetary configuration like this, and I'll show you what all that means in a minute. When we went out of balance, there was a point at which a shield was placed over the top of the world. Why? Because if we had access to all the energy that's available to us in the universe in a condition of imbalance, what would have happened? The Earth wouldn't be here, and probably we wouldn't be here, and probably the Earth wouldn't be here either. It would not be a great place to live in, and it would have happened many, many years ago. So the universe has a self-correcting quality. I call it creator, you call it whatever feels comfortable for you to call it. Energy, a capstone was placed over the top of the world. Who knows where the top of the world is? You're studying hieroglyphics. Where's the top of the world? Go back to ancient Egypt hieroglyphics. The top of the world, there's a bulge in the planet. You know that, right? In ancient Egypt, in the writings, the Kemetic writings, or the Meta-Venture, the top of the world is referred to as East. Now, it's important because we must have our orientation right to move forward. So, in the language of the grandmothers, when they talk about the top of the world, they're talking about the east. So imagine the east being the top of the world at an area of 23 by 32 degrees latitude and longitude, puts us in an area along the Nile, at the very top of the Nile, where a man-made lake was built called Lake Nasser. Under Lake Nasser lies a lot of the ancient artifacts of the Nubian civilization.